understand if we know we have an inherent problem with final exams. I mean, we're looking at this data, 2,360 final exams were failed, tests that were administered, were failing grades. Why would we have 12% of a grade be for the final before we fix and do a deep dive into this? Why wouldn't we look at even less, like 8%, 7%? Why over 10% of the grade on a final exam?
So we had that discussion. There is, if you look at the raw data, and not just the summary, you'll see there is a great many students that will just not take a final exam. Or there's a great many students that will get, answer one or two questions on a final exam and not really care about it. At the discussion we had to keep it at 12% is to still make a cumulative exam relevant. And have students not just dismiss it as meaning nothing. If you go down to something like 8% or something like 6%, then there's very little to no effect on any grade whatsoever. We don't think students will take it seriously. Also, I'm also looking at what I've seen from high schools around us as well. And it's on average, it's either 20% for a middle school midterm exam and a final exam, or at 12%. There's one school that I know that doesn't give any finals or any midterm exams. And then there are other finals that do different things too. So, or other schools that do different things as well.
And to Ms. Moore's point, we had children through the high school for the last how many years, and we are in these circles and we do talk to parents. And, there are students that, I know for one class, it was honors pre-cal. You had the student who had the highest grade in the class got a 70 on the final. Kids with A's all 4 quarters failed. There's a problem. And what's really upsetting is you have kids that are juniors in these higher level classes that are performing for 4 quarters over 90%, going into it with an A, with their fellow students who are seniors. Well, the senior gets to opt out of it because they're a senior, and the junior now fails the final, and their grade point average drops because now you go from an A to a B. We have a real problem in these courses and a real problem with these finals. And then for parents to be told that they can't have a copy of the final exam to take home, to go to a tutor and figure out why their child failed after getting an A for 4 quarters. Is it the curriculum being taught wrong? Is it the final not matching the curriculum? These are things that really need to be looked at because this is affecting our students and it's affecting them negatively. And we have a real problem. It's a real problem.
Yeah, and I know, and looking at the numbers, if we look at a 12%, if you had a student that at 12% did take it and got a 0, their final grade would be affected where they would drop down a letter grade. They would go from an A to a B, which if you're forgetting not to do, if you just figure you're not going to do it and losing a letter grade, I think that is a consequence. If you take an exam and you get a 70 on it and you're a straight A student, for some reason you get a 70 on it, and I'm talking about even after we look at this at a micro level, it's not going to affect your letter grade like a 16% does now. If you get a poor grade and you go from, with 16%, you're going to go from a 95 to an 88 or whatever you're going to sit. With 12%, you're not going to see that drop, which is one of the reasons why that's what we're recommending.
Well, it can drop a letter grade if you're on the cusp of.
If you have an 81, you're going to drop to 79 if you do.
I just want to clarify one thing, because I'm looking at just one class in particular, the honors pre-cal, and there are several grades higher than 70. There's actually grades in the 90s. So I'm not sure where you got the information, but it's incorrect. And I'm looking at just one class right now. But if you would like, I can dive deeper into it if Dr. Lane or Dr. Higgins would like me to.
Well,
I just don't want,
I
just don't want incorrect information going out that nobody got higher than a 70 in a course when I know for a fact.
In a section, in a particular section.
You didn't say that.
Okay, in a particular section.